This woman gracefully shed her clothes, preparing for a refreshing nude bath, utterly oblivious to the hungry eyes fixated on her from behind. Her captivating, alluring figure held the old man's gaze captive. Unfortunately, this illicit tableau was abruptly shattered by his very own dog. The playful canine, completely oblivious to its master's secret desires, casually snatched the woman's garments and dashed away. Startled, the woman scrambled to her feet and immediately gave chase. Panic-stricken, the old man quickly wrestled the clothes from the dog's mouth and flung them far away. He remained blissfully unaware that, in a twist of fate, this very woman would soon re-enter his life as his own daughter-in-law. Today marked the eagerly anticipated return of the old man's long-absent eldest son, Wat. Since early morning, the bustling mother had meticulously prepared everything, instructing her other children to go out and welcome Wat, who had been away from home for many years. The father, however, harbored no warm feelings towards Wat. His disapproval stemmed from Wat's past defiance. He had independently abandoned the family and their traditions to move to Zom, determined to chase his dream of becoming a painter. Now, Wat returned not alone, but with his wife, Lisa, and their young child in tow. As the boat docked, Wat immediately rushed forward, embracing his mother tightly, his face beaming with pure joy. He proudly introduced his wife, Lisa, to her. Lisa, with gentle grace, cradled their baby and presented the child to her mother-in-law, then offered a respectful bow. Following this initial meeting, the entire family promptly prepared to return to their grand villa. Back at the villa, the household staff buzzed with excitement. Particularly delighted was the big-eyed maid, who had secretly harbored affections for Wat for a considerable time. She meticulously applied her makeup, hoping to make a favorable impression on her young master. Her efforts, however, did not go unnoticed by her own mother. The stern matriarch sharply reprimanded the big-eyed maid, telling her to abandon her fanciful dreams, especially now that Wat was married. She stressed that a girl must understand her position and not try to reach beyond her station, or she would be forced to leave. These harsh words pierced her deeply, leaving her utterly heartbroken. As for Lisa, upon stepping into the villa, she was immediately awestruck by its exquisite luxury and refined elegance. From its grand architecture to the meticulously landscaped gardens, every detail was arranged with flawless perfection, prompting her continuous admiration. The household staff stood in neat rows at the entrance, ready to formally welcome the family. Wat, in his characteristic friendly manner, chatted with them and personally introduced Lisa to everyone present. The cheerful sounds of conversation and laughter resonated throughout the grand halls. However, the father maintained his cold indifference, not even bothering to descend the stairs. It was only when Wat inquired with the butler that he discovered his father had been home the entire time, yet displayed no interest whatsoever in his son's and daughter-in-law's arrival. With a sigh, Wat reluctantly led Lisa inside, bringing with them thoughtfully chosen gifts for every family member, and even a token for each of the household staff. The genuine warmth and open demeanor of Wat and Lisa quickly endeared Lisa to everyone in the household. In particular, the youngest brother enthusiastically declared that he, too, wished to marry a woman just like his sister-in-law someday. However, his two younger sisters, one with straight hair and the other with curly black locks, were far more intrigued by a mysterious chest Wat had brought with him. They whispered, wondering why their mother had strictly forbidden access to the attic where the trunk was now stored. Despite their burning curiosity, the older sister with curly blonde hair, respecting her mother's wishes, advised her siblings to stop speculating and simply return to their rooms. As Lisa entered the room prepared exclusively for her, she was thoroughly pleased with its elegant arrangement. She gently placed her child in the crib, then embraced her mother-in-law, expressing heartfelt gratitude for the warm and generous reception. While her humble dwelling in Zom had been comfortable, it simply couldn't compare to the sheer opulence of this grand villa. Shortly after, the mother discreetly drew Wat aside, reminding him about the secret chest. It was then revealed that inside lay a collection of nude paintings of Lisa, some of which Wat himself had painted. The mother expressed deep concern that if these provocative paintings were ever discovered, the family's esteemed honor and reputation would be severely tarnished. But Wat quickly reassured his mother, insisting they were merely works of art and assuring her that no one would ever see them. Unbeknownst to Wat, however, spurred by overwhelming curiosity, the two younger sisters, one with straight hair and the other with curly black tresses, had secretly crept up to the attic in the cover of darkness. Their innocent voices soon echoed with excited delight. For the very first time, these impressionable young girls, on the cusp of womanhood, truly beheld the form of a woman. They delightedly studied Lisa's nude paintings, finally grasping the reason behind their mother's strict prohibition. Afterward, the elder sister cautioned her younger sibling to keep this a strict secret. Yet, the younger sister, unable to contain her excitement, immediately rushed to tell her brother. Moments later, the youngest brother emerged from the room, his face flushed scarlet, only to coincidentally encounter Lisa. Despite his palpable embarrassment, he managed a polite smile and a quick greeting before hastily excusing himself. Lisa, with the free-spirited and open personality characteristic of someone from Zom, quickly integrated herself with everyone in the household, including the staff. Her captivating beauty and perfectly proportioned figure earned her much admiration, but it also fueled the big-eyed maid's overt jealousy. Hearing her mother incessantly extol Lisa's virtues, describing her like a celestial fairy, only deepened the maid's discomfort and resentment. Feigning a need to use the restroom, she retreated to stand before a mirror, gazing sadly at her own somewhat clumsy legs, feeling a profound surge of self-pity and sorrow. Lisa, however, harbored her own private anxieties. Despite marrying into this esteemed and affluent family, she still felt a pang of insecurity when confronted by the inherent nobility and refinement of her in-laws. Standing before the magnificent, palace-like villa, she secretly harbored a profound wish to remain there forever. The crux of the matter was that she still hadn't met her father-in-law. She understood implicitly that within this powerful clan, he held absolute authority, wielding the power of life and death, so to speak. If she could only gain his approval, everything else would fall into place much more smoothly. As Lisa pondered this, she remained completely unaware that fate had already orchestrated a chance encounter between them earlier that day. Lisa confided her earnest wish to Watt, hoping he would help her realize her dream of remaining within the comfortable walls of this villa. Watt advised her not to rush things, suggesting they wait until she had formally met his father before making any further plans. Seeing that her husband had not yet fully agreed, Lisa decided to employ her gentle persuasion to win him over. That evening, as dinner was about to commence, the father finally made his appearance. The moment his eyes fell upon Lisa, he involuntarily paused, a fleeting moment of hesitation, fearing that someone might discern the sudden awkwardness he felt. Guided by Watt's subtle glance, Lisa performed the most solemn and respectful bow in his direction. This gesture, however, instantly brought back memories of their earlier daytime encounter, visibly unsettling him. He quickly withdrew his hand, looking flustered, and abruptly commanded everyone to begin the meal. A palpable tension hung heavy in the air throughout the dinner. To lighten the somber mood, Lisa graciously expressed her gratitude to her mother-in-law, a gesture that immediately helped everyone feel more at ease. When his younger siblings inquired about Watt's profession, he proudly stated that he was an artist. In his father's eyes, however, this was nothing but a useless occupation. He sternly reproached his son in front of the entire family, declaring that a man who couldn't even provide for his own household should let another man do so, rather than dabbling in such absurd art. Humiliated by his father's words, Watt retorted, asserting that he was no longer a child. His father, however, retorted that as long as his son still had to ask for pocket money, he remained nothing more than a child trapped in an adult's body. The argument quickly escalated as both father and son aired long-held grievances and resentments. Witnessing his father's rage culminate in a thunderous slam of the table, Lisa hastily pulled Watt away. She chided him. Why couldn't you just stay silent? But Watt, seething with resentment, countered that his father was merely jealous of him. He recounted to Lisa his father's own dream of becoming a photographer, a passion he was forced to abandon to live according to his uncle's wishes. Watt proudly stated that he was now accomplishing what his father never could. Despite his conviction, Lisa gently reminded her husband that they now had a young child and could not afford to live in perpetual poverty. She expressed her desire to remain in this villa for a stable life, and to achieve that, she emphasized the critical need to win over her father-in-law, advising Watt that a little humiliation was a small price to pay. Hearing her reasoned plea, Watt could only reluctantly agree. The following morning, in an effort to mend the strained relationship between father and son, Lisa, following her mother-in-law's advice, arranged a private meeting with her father-in-law. She brought their child, hoping the baby would serve as a bridge between them, but the old man didn't even deign to glance at his own grandchild. Lisa, however, maintained her composure. She subtly praised his evident talent for cultivating flowers and skillfully agreed with his opinion from the previous night, that Watt ought to seek a stable occupation. Her father-in-law, cutting to the chase, asked directly, "What exactly do you intend to say, daughter-in-law?" Lisa, gathering her resolve, boldly declared that she would persuade her husband to pay attention to practical business matters rather than painting castles in the air. Her father-in-law regarded Lisa, a silent challenge in his eyes, silently thinking, let's see what mettle she truly possesses. Thus, the father-in-law and daughter-in-law had their first direct conversation, a pivotal moment that, of course, was only the very beginning. After her conversation with her father-in-law, and just before she left, Lisa deliberately let one of her child's socks fall to the floor. She wanted to test if her father-in-law was truly as unfeeling as his outward demeanor suggested. She then carried her baby back to the crib. Upon her return, she was surprised to find her child's little feet now fully covered with socks. This unexpected gesture made her wonder, perhaps his heart wasn't quite as cold as she had initially believed. Meanwhile, Lisa's nude paintings, hidden within the mysterious chest, had become a captivating subject of discussion among the younger children. The brother-in-law frequently sneaked up to the attic, meticulously examining and studying each painting with intense curiosity. He eventually deduced that Lisa must have been a nude model and that the artist was none other than his own brother. To protect her sister-in-law and maintain the secrecy, the eldest sister strictly warned her younger sibling not to divulge this information to anyone. Unbeknownst to them, just at that moment, the big-eyed maid happened to overhear their hushed conversation. She attempted to pry into the secret, but the eldest sister quickly walked away, leaving the innocent younger sister standing alone. The big-eyed maid gently led the little girl aside, lifted her onto a chair, and softly, yet persistently, questioned her. Not content with just inquiries, she then proceeded to tell a frightening story about a child who held on to a secret and refused to share it, ultimately perishing. She claimed that if the child had only confided in someone else, she would not have disappeared. These chilling words immediately instilled fear in the little girl. Noticing her hesitation, the big-eyed maid pressed on with her coaxing, assuring the child that she wouldn't tell anyone and that the secret would be safe with her. To the maid's surprise, the little girl did not fall for the trap. Citing the need to go to school, she quickly darted away. That night, the youngest sister, tormented by the big-eyed maid's sinister threats, found herself unable to sleep peacefully. The chilling thought that she might depart this world if she kept the secret for too long relentlessly plagued her mind. She longed to confide in her elder sister, but finding her fast asleep, the little girl was left to lie awake alone, tossing and turning through the night. The next morning, the little girl's spirits were utterly depleted, leaving her unable to even get out of bed. Her lethargic state only served to make the big-eyed maid even more smug and pleased with herself. The maid then muttered ominously that children who harbored secrets until their last breath often displayed similar symptoms. This final ominous remark completely terrified the little girl. Unable to endure the psychological torment any longer, she divulged the entire truth about the paintings to the big-eyed maid, completely unaware that her confession could unleash far-reaching consequences in the future. However, this immediate secret was not the most pressing concern, for an earth-shattering revelation was about to unfold within the villa. It began when Wat decided to seek out his father, intending to apologize for their heated argument the previous night. He made an earnest effort to explain his thoughts and future plans, hoping to contribute meaningfully to the family's welfare. Wat shared that he had made acquaintance with an influential figure in Zong, who had expressed significant interest in collaborating with the family's hotel business. He further emphasized that he himself had dedicated considerable time to meticulously researching this specific project. His father, however, responded with nothing but thinly veiled contempt. In his estimation, someone like Wat, who had never acquired any practical work experience, had absolutely no valuable insights to offer. Instead of entertaining discussions about ambitious, large-scale projects, he coldly advised his son to take a modest, suitable position within the family hotel. His father's dismissive attitude and contemptuous remarks deeply wounded Wat, leaving his heart brimming with bitter resentment. He retreated to his room, channeling his furious frustration into the surrounding furniture. Lisa, bewildered by the sudden outburst, hesitantly began to ask her husband what had transpired, but before she could finish her question, Wat loudly ordered her to leave. Unwilling to exacerbate the tense situation, Lisa quietly picked up her child and sought solace in the serene flower garden. There, to her surprise, she saw her father-in-law engrossed in photographing his daughter. The sight of the old man meticulously adjusting camera angles and gently guiding his daughter's poses stirred a deep emotional chord within her. Once finished, the mischievous daughter proposed taking a photograph of her father and Lisa together. The two adults, feeling somewhat awkward, stood close to each other, but the daughter insisted they stand even closer. Finally, they stood as intimately close as possible. It was at this precise moment that her father-in-law, by force of habit, called out to his dog, Sage, who promptly bounded over. Suddenly, a wave of realization washed over Lisa. Could it be, she thought, could the man who spied on me bathing that day have been my father-in-law? Lisa cast a suspicious glance at him, but dared not betray her thoughts. Her father-in-law, for his part, seemed to sense that his secret had been exposed, causing him to become even more flustered. Lisa was aghast as the shocking realization hit her. The man who had secretly watched her bathe on the beach was none other than her own father-in-law. However, she dared not utter a single word. In this affluent and powerful family, everyone lived under his formidable shadow, including her own husband, who still had to surreptitiously request pocket money from his mother merely to maintain some semblance of standing within the household. Lisa made a firm decision to comply with her father-in-law's wishes. She would persuade Wat to abandon his painting and secure a stable job. She feigned indifference and applied subtle pressure, leaving Wat with no alternative but to reluctantly agree. But the moment Wat reluctantly conceded, Lisa's demeanor underwent a complete transformation. She immediately pulled him along, eager to inform both her father-in-law and mother-in-law. Upon hearing the news, the older couple were utterly astonished, readily attributing this remarkable achievement to their insightful daughter-in-law. However, the subsequent meeting between father and son swiftly devolved into another fiery argument. Wat proudly asserted that he deserved his father's recognition for his accomplishments in art. His father, in stark contrast, scoffed, claiming that painting was utterly insufficient for earning a living. He even bluntly declared that Wat possessed no discernible advantages or notable talents. Feeling utterly demeaned, Wat only grew more resolute in his refusal to abandon his artistic passion. The tense conversation concluded abruptly, with both father and son departing in a state of profound dissatisfaction. The big-eyed maid, observing Wat's furious departure, secretly reveled in the thought that he had quarreled with his wife. However, another servant quickly corrected her, stating that it couldn't be true, as they had been playfully teaching each other spelling in bed that very morning, a clear sign of intimacy. This information infuriated the maid even further, and she secretly vowed to expel Lisa from the villa, whatever the cost. Fully aware of Lisa's nude paintings, the maid began to plot how she could extract information about the attic key from the unsuspecting youngest sister. Meanwhile, the father-in-law sternly warned his wife against secretly giving any more pocket money. He threatened that if she were caught, both of them would be expelled from the household. The entire family prepared for an outing to the beach. The mother-in-law, subtly intending to create an opportunity for her husband and Lisa to have a private conversation, feigned forgetting something and drew her daughter back towards the villa. The two were left alone in the quiet expanse, but neither spoke a word until the family dog unexpectedly appeared. Lisa let out a sudden laugh, recalling the incident at the beach. Her father-in-law, surprised, asked her why she was laughing, and Lisa, with a directness born of the moment, frankly recounted how he had secretly watched her. He was instantly mortified, his face hardening as he sternly warned her that while she may have lived a free-spirited life in Zong, now that she was married into this family, she was expected to adhere to their stringent rules and customs. Lisa indignantly retorted that she had been utterly unaware of being spied upon. But before their intense conversation could progress further, the mother and daughter returned, cutting their exchange short. That evening, Lisa confronted her husband, questioning why he had changed his mind and failed to start work as he had promised. What, however, remained stubbornly silent, unwilling to offer any explanation. Lisa was so incensed that she couldn't sleep, eventually seeking fresh air outside. Her mother-in-law came to comfort her, gently advising her not to give up hope. She firmly believed that with Lisa's striking beauty and inherent intelligence, she would undoubtedly find a way to secure her position within the family. These encouraging words seemed to greatly bolster Lisa's wavering confidence. The following morning, her mother-in-law presented Lisa with an exquisite evening gown and a selection of high-end jewelry. After applying dazzling makeup, Lisa gazed at her reflection in the mirror, feeling utterly pleased and radiant. As she descended the grand staircase, every eye in the room, even her father-in-law's, was drawn towards her. He found himself utterly unable to tear his gaze away from his daughter-in-law's dazzling beauty. In stark contrast, what appeared completely aloof and indifferent, leaving Lisa feeling profoundly disappointed and disheartened. Her mother-in-law offered comfort, assuring her that this was merely the beginning and urging her not to lose heart. That evening, Lisa meticulously prepared to rekindle intimacy with her husband, from dabbing on his favorite perfume to donning seductive lingerie, patiently awaiting his return. But when what finally entered their room, he didn't even glance at her, merely stating he had much work to attend to before promptly leaving again. Lisa was left feeling both crushed and heartbroken, acutely aware that the emotional chasm between them was steadily widening. Within the villa, the strict patriarch demanded that all women possess a thorough understanding of proper etiquette and decorum. Even his two teenage daughters had been rigorously educated in these matters since childhood. Consequently, the women of the villa made it a daily habit to dedicate time to reading. Only Lisa, it seemed, harbored no such inclination or interest. This observation only deepened the first sister-in-law's disdain, as she already held Lisa in low regard. She found it utterly unfathomable why her intellectually curious brother would marry this type of long-legged, empty-headed woman. Outwardly, she offered condescending advice to Lisa, suggesting that women must learn to adapt to their husbands for a harmonious married life. In truth, her words were laced with scorn for Lisa's perceived lack of education. She insinuated that life was long, and mere physical beauty would not suffice for everything. By the time Lisa reached 40 or 50, she would truly comprehend the depths of her misery. The mother, however, directly cut off her daughter's lecture. The first sister-in-law, startled, quickly backtracked, stammering, "But mother, you are still so beautiful now. You must realize that mother herself is currently in that age bracket." The mother, utterly unamused, simply stated that not everyone was beautiful in their youth, leaving the first sister-in-law mortified and speechless. This brief exchange, however, brightened Lisa's mood ever so slightly. To avoid disturbing their studious atmosphere, Lisa quietly moved out of their line of sight. The first sister-in-law, still perplexed, wondered aloud. Lisa and brother met at the art academy, so why does Lisa seem so uneducated? Her mother sharply told her to keep quiet and mind her own business. After all, she knew perfectly well that Lisa had merely been a nude model at the art school. As Lisa strolled through the flower garden, she encountered a young gardener. He shared some insights about her father-in-law, mentioning his deep affection for these particular roses, which he had even named Rosali. Lisa found the name charming, completely unaware that it was a poignant tribute to her father-in-law's former mistress. As she happily returned to the beach, she cheerfully recounted to her mother-in-law and the first sister-in-law her fascinating discovery about the roses named Rosali. Their faces, however, instantly clouded over. Unaware of the sudden shift in mood, Lisa continued her enthusiastic narration until the first sister-in-law abruptly cut her off, deeming such topics meaningless. The first sister-in-law didn't need to elaborate, for she understood her mother's deep-seated pain. Despite this shared understanding, her mother's spirits were already so low that she found no solace in reading. She rose and quietly retreated to the living room, where she secretly shed tears of anguish. Witnessing her mother's despair, the first sister-in-law seized the moment her father departed. She stealthily made her way to his study and carefully opened an envelope that had arrived several days prior. The addressee was Rosalie. Upon finishing its contents, she felt a surge of satisfaction. She presented the letter to her mother, explaining that it had been delivered days ago yet remained unopened by their father. The mother, however, was filled with dread. "If your father discovers this," she whispered, her voice trembling, "we'll be ruined." The first sister-in-law quickly reassured her mother. "Don't worry, I'll return the letter to its original spot, seal it perfectly, and no one will ever know." Relieved, the mother urged her daughter to read every single word aloud to her. The letter's content revealed that her husband had not responded to Rosalie for a considerable time, effectively ending their correspondence and, implicitly, his affections for her. Despite the clear evidence, the mother still found it difficult to fully believe. Her daughter gently consoled her. "This is the truth, mother. You mustn't grieve any longer." With a renewed sense of urgency, the mother instructed her daughter to promptly return the letter to its original place, emphasizing that their father must absolutely not discover their intrusion. To this day, she remained oblivious to what truly caused the rift in their relationship, failing to notice that her husband had severed ties with his mistress precisely when Lisa first set foot in their villa. Meanwhile, the first sister-in-law carefully returned the letter to her father's study. Unfortunately, just as she was about to replace it, her father unexpectedly returned to retrieve an item. Startled and terrified by his stern gaze, she instantly feigned a sudden fainting spell. Panicked, her father scooped up his daughter and carried her to her bed, urgently summoning everyone for help. The second sister-in-law, quick-witted and agile, immediately rushed to assist. Seizing the moment her father opened a window for air, the first sister-in-law subtly squeezed her younger sister's hand, silently entrusting her with the unfinished task, then resumed her feigned unconsciousness. The intelligent and nimble second sister-in-law understood instantly. She discreetly retrieved some glue and made her way to their father's study. With practiced ease, she carefully sealed the envelope and replaced it exactly as it had been, leaving no trace of their interference. Concurrently, the rest of the household gathered around the first sister-in-law, anxiously inquiring about her condition. Her father, however, remained deeply perplexed, unable to fathom what his eldest daughter had been doing in his private study to cause her sudden collapse. When pressed for answers, the first sister-in-law, still feigning weakness, offered a hesitant and rather incoherent explanation. Just then, the second sister-in-law appeared, stepping forward to take full responsibility. She cleverly explained that her own glue had run out, prompting her to ask her older sister to retrieve some from their father's study. Her father, convinced by the plausible excuse, dismissed any lingering suspicions. He simply advised his eldest daughter to rest and recover, then left the room. Meanwhile, Lisa, feeling utterly lost and bewildered, didn't know how to handle her distant husband. She confided in her mother-in-law, lamenting that what had been completely ignoring her lately, spending his days either out drinking, socializing, or engrossed in his painting. Her mother-in-law, though deeply empathetic to Lisa's plight, still advised patience, convinced that with combined pressure from both herself and her husband, what would eventually come around. Lisa, however, found herself increasingly desperate, especially given the father-in-law's glacial indifference. He didn't even bother to glance at his own grandson. Determined to help her daughter-in-law, the mother-in-law spoke with her husband, passionately highlighting Lisa's profound distress. She hoped that if he would only hold their grandchild, it might soften his heart and improve the strained family dynamics. The following day, when the mother visited her husband's study, she discovered her two daughters meticulously searching through his belongings. It transpired that the father-in-law, having misplaced his glasses, was in a fit of rage, demanding that his daughters locate them before his return. The mother, relying on her intuition, quickly headed to her husband's photography room, suspecting he might have left them there. Sure enough, the glasses were resting exactly where she predicted. As she turned to leave, her gaze was drawn to a collection of newly developed photographs her husband had taken. Among them, one particular photograph, featuring her husband and Lisa, captivated her attention. A faint smile touched her lips as she gazed at the image, but fearing her thoughts might wander into dangerous territory, she quickly rehung it in its original place. When the father-in-law returned, he collected the developed photos and, in doing so, spotted the one featuring himself and his daughter-in-law. His gaze lingered on the photograph for a long, contemplative moment before he carefully placed it into a drawer, out of sight. That evening, Lisa, plagued by insomnia, descended to the kitchen for a glass of water. The sharp-eyed maid, almost as if she had been anticipating her arrival, swiftly offered to prepare a calming tea. As she prepared the tea, the maid subtly began to pry, asking about what. Upon learning that what had not yet returned, the maid feigned sympathy, though a barely concealed smirk betrayed her underlying satisfaction. She slyly insinuated that what had once been a philanderer, frequently absent from home, but had now supposedly transformed into a handsome and faithful husband. These insidious remarks eroded Lisa's self-confidence, leaving her to silently await her husband's return, consumed by uncertainty. When what finally returned, Lisa immediately confronted him about his whereabouts. What? Entirely oblivious to her simmering anger, innocently recounted meeting old friends at a pub and having a few drinks. This blatant lack of awareness ignited Lisa's fury, fueling her deepest fear that what might truly seek out another woman. Their heated argument echoed through the villa, rousing the entire household. Lisa nearly shrieked, "If he's truly such a dissolute man, why did he even bother to marry me?" In response to his wife's tirade, Watt simply stated, "Because you are too beautiful." Lisa, flattered by the compliment, instantly softened, choosing to make amends. The rest of the family, accustomed to their tumultuous, fair-weather relationship, could only shake their heads in bewilderment. Upon hearing of the incident, the father-in-law merely shook his head, confidently believing that one day Lisa would realize she had married an utter fool. The following day, the daughter brought the newly developed photographs to her mother, asking her to arrange them in the family album. However, as she sorted through them, her mother noticed one photograph was conspicuously missing. She inquired about its absence, but her daughter simply speculated that their father, perhaps displeased with it, had discarded it. The mother, dismissing the matter, brought her valuable jewelry to her husband, hoping it would help him alleviate his current business struggles. Despite a pang of reluctance, she feigned disinterest, claiming she had grown tired of them and confidently stating that her husband would undoubtedly purchase newer, more suitable pieces in the future. As her husband opened the drawer to store the jewelry, her gaze inadvertently landed on the photograph of the two of them. In that singular moment, she seemed to freeze, a profound realization washing over her. It wasn't that her husband had disregarded the photo and discarded it. Rather, he cherished it so deeply that he had carefully tucked it away, safeguarding it. Retreating to her room, consumed by a renewed anguish, she couldn't help but agonize over whether her husband harbored any genuine feelings or ulterior motives towards Lisa. This particular line of thought, however, brought a flush of shame to her cheeks. She chastised herself for doubting her husband and resolved to discard such unworthy anxieties. After all, who truly knew what tomorrow held? Early the next morning, Watt skipped breakfast, eager to prepare for his fishing trip. His younger brother immediately approached him, scolding him for his idleness and lack of commitment to any meaningful work. Watt, clearly irritated, retorted that no matter how incompetent he might be, he was still superior to his father, who had resorted to selling their mother's cherished jewelry just to sustain their lifestyle. His younger brother calmly countered, "Once the family hotel is completed, our family's reputation will be restored and honored." The heated exchange escalated as their father, the patriarch, suddenly appeared. He bluntly disparaged Watt, declaring that in his eyes, his own son was worth less than a common household servant. A few words from either father or son were enough to plunge their interactions into a heavy, suffocating atmosphere. Within the household, a pervasive sense of unease settled over everyone. To make matters worse, Watt's argument with Lisa the previous day meant she had yet to come down for breakfast. The first sister-in-law speculated that Lisa was likely too embarrassed to show her face, even going so far as to suggest that a divorce might be imminent. However, at that very moment, Lisa came bustling downstairs, her face radiating with an unexpected cheerfulness. Her sister-in-law, genuinely curious, inquired, "Why are you so meticulously dressed and made up today, Lisa?" Lisa joyfully announced that Watt was going to take her for a stroll, leaving the entire family utterly dumbfounded. Everyone present was well aware that Watt had already left for his fishing trip early that morning. When Lisa finally grasped that Watt had, once again, failed to keep his word, she was struck speechless by a wave of crushing disappointment. Noticing her distress, the father-in-law graciously offered that his daughter could take Lisa for a walk instead. However, the family schedule for the day was already packed, so they had to postpone the outing for another occasion. Late that afternoon, Watt returned home, belatedly realizing he had completely forgotten his promise to Lisa. Despite a pang of guilt, he offered no apology. Lisa, surprisingly, did not reproach him. Instead, she took the initiative to reconcile, reminiscing about the happy memories they once shared. She attempted to draw him closer with the only means she believed she had left, the gentle allure of her physical affection, hoping to keep him by her side. Watt, however, bluntly rebuffed her, stating he had work to do, then picked up his toolbox and abruptly left the room. Lisa managed a weak, forced smile, clutching onto the last vestiges of her dignity. That evening, as the family gathered in the living room, a sudden, unexpected explosion from a chandelier sent everyone into a panic. The father-in-law swiftly calmed their fears, assuring them that such an incident would not recur. When the family suspected he might sell the damaged fixture, he astonished them by announcing that their house would soon be the very first on the island to be connected to electricity. This declaration left the entire household utterly astounded, as the island had, until now, been without any electricity whatsoever. Addressing their collective disbelief, the father-in-law confidently affirmed that he had meticulously researched the project and guaranteed its successful implementation. His ambitious pronouncement sparked a wave of admiration in Lisa, who unreservedly praised his intelligence. Yet, even amidst this newfound positivity, Lisa couldn't resist publicly criticizing Watt for his indolence. Her sharp words deeply humiliated Watt, who, seething with anger, stormed out of the room. Noticing the discord, the sharp-eyed maid recognized an opportune moment for her own schemes of revenge. She quickly prepared tea and brought it to Watt's room, hoping to gain his attention and perhaps a closer rapport. What, however, paid her no mind, deepening her frustration and resentment. Seething with suppressed fury, she covertly ascended to the attic, intent on locating the family's secret chest, hoping to uncover secrets that would allow her to expose everyone. Meanwhile, when Lisa returned to her room, Wood immediately launched into a scathing, sarcastic attack, accusing her of deliberately humiliating him in front of the entire household. Wood felt profoundly misunderstood by everyone, asserting that his wife, above all, had no right to disrespect him in such a manner. Lisa, bursting with resentment, retorted that he was hardly worthy of being her husband, pointing out that he never truly looked at her or exchanged a single meaningful word with her. Their argument quickly spiraled into a bitter, tense confrontation. Wood retorted by criticizing Lisa, claiming she had changed, transforming into an unreasonable and demanding woman. Lisa countered by reminding him of her immense sacrifice, leaving behind her friends and her vibrant life in Zone to follow him here, only to be met with his utter indifference and constant broken promises. In a fit of uncontrollable rage, Lisa impulsively tore apart the painting Wood cherished most. This act of defiance pushed their already fragile marriage to the very brink of collapse. Lisa fled the room in tears, not bothering to glance back even as her sister-in-law called out, asking where she was headed. Naturally, Lisa had no intention of abandoning the luxurious comforts of the villa. She simply sought a place where her husband was not. And if, by some fortunate coincidence, her father-in-law happened to be there, that would be even better. As if on cue, her unspoken wish was granted. Lisa stumbled upon her father-in-law, to the mutual surprise of them both. Noticing Lisa's distress, he kindly inquired about her well-being, which only caused Lisa to stammer incoherently. In her agitated state, she couldn't even manage to articulate herself in Turkish. It was only when her father-in-law directly spoke in Zong that Lisa felt an immediate rush of familial warmth. Without hesitation, she collapsed into his arms, seeking solace. Confronted with her husband's profound neglect of his responsibilities as a man, all in pursuit of his artistic dreams, she felt an overwhelming sense of disappointment and loneliness. In stark contrast to her emotionally immature husband, her father-in-law provided her with a far greater sense of security and stability. Fortunately, the father-in-law's rationality prevailed just in time, allowing him to subtly withdraw from her vulnerable embrace, mindful that this woman was, after all, his daughter-in-law. Lisa, suddenly conscious of having overstepped a boundary, awkwardly bent down to retrieve a fallen button, preparing to make her exit. Meanwhile, the mother-in-law, gravely concerned that Lisa might be contemplating something drastic, frantically searched every corner of the villa for her daughter-in-law. Little did she know that her sincere concern was about to lead her to a discovery that would fill her with profound regret. The mother-in-law's search led her to the garden, her eyes drawn to the brightly illuminated greenhouse. As Lisa emerged from the shadows of the greenhouse, her mother-in-law couldn't help but notice her daughter-in-law's hand tightly clutching the hem of her dress, her face betraying a deep unease. Despite her initial desire to offer comfort, a flicker of suspicion entered her gaze. She softly inquired if Lisa had seen her father-in-law, suggesting he might still be inside the greenhouse. Lisa skillfully evaded the question, making it clear she had no intention of discussing what had transpired that evening. The following morning, a maid presented the mother-in-law with a button, explaining that the gardener had found it inside the greenhouse. This seemingly innocent coincidence immediately startled the mother-in-law, bringing Lisa's peculiar demeanor from the previous night sharply back into focus. As soon as Lisa left her room, the mother-in-law quietly made her way to Lisa's wardrobe, searching for the dress she had worn the previous evening. Sure enough, the dress was missing a button. She quietly placed the button on a nearby table, a cold certainty settling in her heart. Lisa was undoubtedly concealing a significant truth from her. Meanwhile, Lisa retreated to the flower garden, consciously trying to avoid What, engrossed in his painting, didn't even bother to glance her way. She settled onto a bench near the greenhouse. There, she found her father-in-law and the young gardener diligently pruning roses. Through their conversation, her father-in-law learned that Lisa, far from looking down on the young boy for his orphan status, had patiently taught him Italian and even gifted him a fountain pen. Deeply touched by his daughter-in-law's compassionate heart, he carefully selected the most beautiful rose and instructed the boy to present it to her. When the young gardener presented the rose to Lisa, she couldn't conceal her astonishment. It was the very rose she knew her father-in-law cherished above all others. She told the boy, "This will surely enrage your master." Hearing her concern, the boy simply smiled and reassured her that the master himself had asked him to do so. These words immediately brightened Lisa's spirits. She carefully carried the precious bloom to her bedroom, intending to place it beside her bed. However, as she entered, her eyes fell upon the button lying on her table, and her pleasant mood instantly dissolved into a jumble of uneasy thoughts. Meanwhile, Wood was preparing to leave the house. He stopped by his mother's room, ostensibly to bid her farewell, but in reality, to subtly extract more pocket money from her. His thrifty mother discreetly handed him a small sum before he departed, then urged him not to leave Lisa alone in her empty room. A woman, when lonely, she warned, can be difficult to control. Wood, however, completely dismissed her warning. He reflected that his father had always treated his mother with similar indifference. Yet, his mother had remained by his father's side all these years, without a single complaint. His mother, at a loss for words, could only sigh. She merely hoped what wouldn't continue to disregard Lisa's feelings. Otherwise, she feared, things would not end well for their marriage. What, however, found her words utterly meaningless, scoffing inwardly. Is she truly afraid Lisa will simply abandon me? What's callous response deeply disappointed his mother. She gravely warned him that if he didn't change his ways, Lisa might very well seek solace and support elsewhere. The implication startled What for a moment, but he quickly brushed it aside. He merely assumed his mother was chastising him, just as his father often did. Feeling utterly misunderstood and disrespected, he returned to his room, discreetly tucking the money his mother had given him into an envelope hidden within a drawer. He remained oblivious to the fact that Lisa had witnessed his entire secretive transaction. That evening, What rendezvoused with his usual circle of unsavory friends. As they chatted, the entire group's attention was suddenly drawn to the alluring figure of a woman standing by the window. That woman was none other than Rosalie, a figure with the potential to destabilize the already precarious relationship between What and Lisa. This woman possessed more than enough cunning to insinuate herself into the ambiguous and potentially illicit entanglement forming between the father-in-law and Lisa. A truly complicated love triangle. She was poised to either unravel these complex dynamics or, more likely, exacerbate them. Meanwhile, back at the villa, a new domestic issue was brewing. During dinner, the father-in-law announced a significant development. Their son-in-law was soon to be appointed to a state position. This appointment implied his impending absence from the household for a considerable period. To everyone's surprise, the first sister-in-law, instead of appearing saddened, merely offered a casual smile, remarking that at least now she would know her husband's whereabouts. These unintentionally cutting words deeply shamed Lisa, for as What's wife, she herself had no idea where he spent his days or what he did. The dinner table was plunged into a suffocating silence. Her father quickly admonished his daughter for her insensitive remarks. The mother-in-law, meanwhile, remained conspicuously silent, her eyes betraying a profound dissatisfaction that she struggled to suppress. Concurrently, What and his friends remained captivated by the striking beauty of Rosalie, the woman seated by the pub window. Through a chat with the waiter, they learned that she frequented the establishment alone every evening. This revelation only heightened the group's excitement, particularly What's. His friend observed that Rosalie's gaze seemed especially fixed on What, prompting the group to begin betting on who she was truly interested in. As Rosalie eventually rose to leave her table, every eye in the group followed her departure. Secret calculations and desires stirred within each of them. Later that evening, the father-in-law unexpectedly delivered joyous news. The second sister-in-law was to be married to her uncle's son. The second sister-in-law, however, expressed considerable reluctance, stating she wasn't ready to enter into marriage so soon. Her father-in-law quickly sought to reassure her, explaining that marriage didn't necessitate separation, citing her older sister as an example. Lisa also chimed in, asserting that if one found a man who loved them deeply, any sacrifice would be profoundly worthwhile. Her father-in-law nodded in full agreement with this sentiment. As dinner concluded, Lisa rose and departed, and her father-in-law, feigning an urgent task, promptly followed suit. On the grand staircase, Lisa cast a subtly suggestive glance at him, her eyes brimming with unspoken implications. She was secretly calculating, intent on testing the true extent of her influence and position within her father-in-law's heart. As she walked past him, she deliberately let her shawl slip to the ground, then paused, subtly awaiting his reaction. Her father-in-law stopped, picked up the shawl, and with a measured gesture, hung it on her bedroom door. Disappointed that her subtle test had not yielded the desired outcome, Lisa returned to her room, her spirits heavy. That night, What returned home in a state of utter inebriation. Observing him, Lisa couldn't suppress a sarcastic remark. He always had money for alcohol, but never a dime for his family. What retorted that she clearly didn't understand how to enjoy life, living in such abundance, yet still finding reasons to be dissatisfied. He asserted that if his father hadn't cut off his allowance, he wouldn't be struggling financially as he was now. He remained utterly oblivious to the true responsibilities of a husband and a father. Lisa angrily countered that his father had no obligation to provide for him for the rest of his life. After marrying and having a child, he should be mature enough to shoulder his own family's burdens. No matter what Lisa said, What stubbornly clung to his artistic dreams. He accused her of becoming shallow and materialistic, constantly fixated on money. He declared that if there was anything she desired, he would endeavor to provide it himself, but she should never expect to rely on anyone else to achieve her ambitions. His cold, cutting words left Lisa's heart feeling utterly desolate and hardened. She turned back to her bed, silently vowing to achieve everything she desired, no matter the means. Concurrently, the sharp-eyed maid was meticulously plotting Lisa's downfall and expulsion from the villa. Convinced she possessed Lisa's ultimate weakness, she retrieved a scandalous photograph of Lisa, taken in the nude, and surreptitiously pasted it onto the glass door of the father-in-law's greenhouse, a spot frequented by most of the household staff every morning. In the dim light, she wore a triumphant smile, eagerly anticipating the imminent collapse of Lisa's honor and reputation. Early the following morning, the household staff diligently watered the flowers and plants in the garden, utterly oblivious to the provocative photograph pasted on the greenhouse glass. Upon discovering the image, now distorted and smudged by the water, the servants panicked. They worried that if the father-in-law were to see it, he would undoubtedly be enraged. In their scramble, they began to blame one another, hastily concluding that the entire mishap was a result of a faulty water pipe. The wide-eyed maid approached, struggling to conceal her anticipation. Her initial plan, however, failed spectacularly, and her disappointment was palpable. When the father-in-law finally arrived and saw the marred painting, he merely chuckled, assuming it was one of Watt's playful antics to showcase his artistic talent. He remarked, with a wry smile, that even the heavens didn't seem to favor these paintings. He then calmly instructed a servant to remove the piece. Meanwhile, Lisa, having regained her composure, prepared to go out for a stroll. Noticing her still in the same clothes from the previous night, the mother-in-law couldn't resist pointedly bringing up the button found in the greenhouse. Lisa smoothly explained that the baby might have pulled it off, yet a flicker of doubt remained evident in her mother-in-law's gaze. Still, she said nothing further. As Lisa was about to depart, sister-in-law too expressed a desire to accompany her. Just then, a maid carried the baby before the mother-in-law. The child, crying fretfully, accidentally tugged at and detached a button from the maid's shirt. Seeing the button in the maid's hand, the mother-in-law instantly recalled Lisa's earlier explanation and realized her profound misunderstanding. A wave of relief washed over her face. A burden she had carried for days finally lifted. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she felt a heavy stone removed from her heart. That evening, the mother-in-law was unable to contain her newfound joy. She gleefully sprayed perfume from head to toe, even subtly, or not so subtly, showcasing her cleavage. However, when the father-in-law entered, the overpowering scent of her fragrance clearly perturbed him. She quickly opened a window, attempting to air out the room and alleviate the heavy atmosphere. Despite her efforts, the father-in-law remained utterly disinterested, coolly telling her to turn off the lights and go to bed. His indifferent demeanor left the mother-in-law feeling crestfallen, but she dutifully complied. The following day, the younger sister arrived with news. Sister-in-law 2's future fiancé had arrived. Sister-in-law 2, naturally, was eager to know what he looked like. Her sister's terse reply, "He has a beard, that's it," immediately dampened her spirits. Upon meeting the bearded gentleman, sister-in-law 2 was utterly distraught. Panicked, she declared to her mother that she'd rather remain single her entire life than marry such a man. While Lisa worried that sister-in-law 2 might do something drastic, the mother-in-law calmly reassured her that her daughter wouldn't act foolishly. As sister-in-law 2 fled the villa in despair, she collided with Watt. After hearing her story, Watt both comforted her and gently guided her back inside. But as they reached the door, they encountered the bearded man preparing to leave. To their astonishment, the true groom was not this man, but rather a different, younger, elegant gentleman sporting a vibrant red tie. Sister-in-law 2's eyes instantly transformed. Her earlier terror gave way to dreamy visions of a perfect wedding. While she excitedly perused wedding dresses, her mother found many of them unsuitable, especially given the family's increasingly strained financial situation. That evening, Lisa appeared in a stunning new outfit, the very one sister-in-law 2 had admired earlier in the day. The sheer extravagance of the attire left everyone, including the mother-in-law, wondering how Lisa could possibly afford it. Unable to allow her daughters to directly question Lisa, the mother-in-law quietly approached Lisa's room when she was alone. She asked where Lisa had obtained the money for the clothes. Lisa casually gestured towards a drawer, revealing that she had taken the money Watt had hidden there. The mother-in-law was taken aback by Lisa's audaciousness. Lisa calmly elaborated, explaining that Watt squandered money at the tavern daily, showing no regard for the family. If he no longer had funds, he would surely be compelled to stay home. The mother-in-law was rendered speechless by this revelation, yet a growing unease settled within her. She couldn't shake the feeling that matters within the household were rapidly spiraling out of control. It seemed Lisa now truly feared no one, her confidence bolstered by the father-in-law's unwavering support, to the point where she barely acknowledged her own husband. The climax arrived the very next morning when Watt discovered the money in his drawer was gone. He immediately sought out Lisa to confront her. She nonchalantly admitted to taking the funds, bluntly stating she had used them to buy clothes. Watt was utterly stunned by this confession, realizing it was his entire month's worth of spending money. He couldn't fathom Lisa's actions, especially after he himself had told her that if she wanted something, she should take it herself. And indeed, she calmly stated, "I wanted this dress, and I took it." Watt was so enraged that he couldn't utter a word. Having just had a disagreement with his mother, he now found it impossible to ask her for money. He was left with no idea how to fund his evening drinks. That evening, when Lisa appeared at dinner in her new attire, sister-in-law 1 and sister-in-law 2 exchanged knowing glances. It was an outfit so luxurious that even the future bride wouldn't have dared to purchase it, yet there it was, adorning Lisa. Sister-in-law 1 deliberately complimented the dress, calling it beautiful, but Lisa merely offered a faint smile and replied that it was old clothes. No one dared to say anything further, but a heavy, unspoken tension permeated the dining table. After dinner, The mother brought What a stack of money, reminding him to keep it safe. This time, before leaving, she further emphasized that she had always stood by him, ever since the day he was born. These words prompted What to utter a rare phrase. "Thank you, mother." In the living room, everyone gathered for conversation. When the younger sister inquired about Lisa's favorite painter, Lisa cast her gaze towards a particular painting hanging on the wall. Sister-in-law 1 burst into a mocking laugh, pointing out that there were far more valuable pieces in the house, yet Lisa had chosen this one. Unexpectedly, the father-in-law intervened, defending Lisa and stating that he, too, was quite fond of that particular painting. To prove his point, he declared that he was gifting it to Lisa, asserting that only someone who truly understood its value deserved to own it. Encouraged by the father-in-law's support, Lisa rose and took the painting down. But to everyone's surprise, instead of keeping it, she rehung it in its original spot, explaining that she wished for her father-in-law to continue seeing the painting he cherished. This gesture pleased the father-in-law even more. The mother-in-law, however, was seething with anger but forced herself to feign indifference, inventing an excuse about forgetting something to quickly exit the room. The following morning, while dressing, the mother-in-law grumbled irritably, unable to fasten a button on her blouse, though she vehemently refused to acknowledge any weight gain. Stepping out, she observed Lisa heading towards the father-in-law's study. Lisa had come to thank him for the painting, expressing that his gesture not only represented his recognition, but also imbued her with the courage to remain within this family. Their eyes met with a profound, unspoken understanding, leaving the father-in-law both deeply pleased and subtly stirred. This intimate scene, unfortunately, did not escape the notice of the wide-eyed maid, who was consumed by intense jealousy. Determined to find a way to eliminate Lisa, she stealthily crept into the attic, intending to steal a photograph of her. Regrettably, this time she came face to face with the mother-in-law. As the mother-in-law departed, her eyes inadvertently landed on a secret trunk. Her curiosity piqued. She opened it to discover a collection of sensuous photographs of Lisa. Lisa's youthful allure and charm instantly made the mother-in-law feel self-conscious and inadequate. What she didn't realize was that someone else stood directly behind her, barely daring to breathe. When the mother-in-law left the room and attempted to lock the door, she found the key missing, forcing her to temporarily abandon her task. Unbeknownst to her, the wide-eyed maid was hiding in the attic. Once the mother-in-law was gone, she quickly returned the key to its original place. But before she could exhale in relief, she heard the distinct voices of the mother-in-law and the butler returning. The wide-eyed maid, paralyzed with fear, was thus compelled to remain hidden in the attic throughout the entire night. The next morning, a servant discovered that the wide-eyed maid had not returned home all night. Meanwhile, the mother-in-law took her daughter's wedding shopping for sister-in-law 2. They reluctantly brought Lisa along, as the father-in-law had insisted. However, both the mother-in-law and sister-in-law 1 made little effort to engage with Lisa. Distracted by a captivating item in a shop window, Lisa soon found herself separated from them. She searched frantically, but without success. When the mother-in-law and her daughters finally realized Lisa was missing, they had no choice but to report the situation to the father-in-law. Hearing the news, he flew into a rage, scolding them for failing to keep Lisa within their sight as he had instructed. As he prepared to go search for Lisa himself, an elder arrived to announce that a woman was asking for him. Believing it to be Lisa, he rushed to the balcony. But the woman standing there was Rosalie. Rosalie, his former lover, had returned after many years of separation. Although she expressed profound affection, the father-in-law no longer harbored the same emotions. Nevertheless, to comfort her, he promised to meet her the following day. It was precisely at this moment that Lisa appeared, witnessing the two of them. She couldn't hide her tension and evident insecurity when confronted with Rosalie's undeniable charm. The situation became incredibly awkward as the father-in-law was forced to introduce the two women to each other. When Rosalie revealed her full name, Lisa instantly recognized her as the precious Rose from her father-in-law's cherished stories. A smoldering fire of jealousy began to ignite within Lisa, compelling her to take action. But what would she do? This marks the conclusion of this part of the story, based on a new film released this year. The next dramatic developments will be revealed in the upcoming installment. Stay tuned to discover how Lisa's journey unfolds. Thank you for watching this video. If there are other films you'd like me to cover, please leave your suggestions in the comments below. Until next time.